Just before we dive back into the episode, I wanted to quickly share something that might interest you, especially if today's conversation has got you thinking about your own sustainability work. Some of the things we hear most in this industry are, I wish I could connect with other people doing this work, or I'd love to turn my sustainability expertise into something more. Well, 51 to Carbon Zero, the sponsor of this podcast, have created their own referral network. And it does exactly that. This isn't about selling you something, it's actually about helping you make money while building the sustainability community we all need. So here's what's in it for you. First, you get to join a genuine community of sustainability experts who share knowledge, refer work to each other, and solve problems together. So, no more working in isolation. Secondly, there's real money involved. There's 10% plus commission on software referrals. We're talking about projects that go from 30 grand up to 100 grand. Plus, you'll be able to boost your presence by taking part in our fireside chats. I've actually got an email in front of me from Louise Stevens, one of the ambassadors, and it says that all her clients are genuinely happy because she's got a great partner and her clients love them. But here's the bigger picture. You'll be helping accelerate the sustainability transition that we all desperately need. Every referral, every connection, every collaboration moves us closer to the world we're all working towards. If this resonates with you and you want to earn some extra income, click the link in our show notes to become a 51 to Carbon Zero ambassador. Okay, back to the show. Welcome to the Green Element Podcast, where we meet business leaders and innovators transforming their operations to be more environmentally and socially sustainable, and in the process, help you on your journey of sustainability. I'm your host, Will Richardson. Today, we're speaking with Samantha Cooper, Director for Business Declares, of which both Green Element and Compare Your Footprint are members. They raise awareness across the business sector of the imperative to accelerate action to address climate change, biodiversity loss, and social injustice. Samantha has a master's in chemistry from the University of Oxford and is currently studying Tibetan Buddhism. Samantha left BP in 2015 to find a more fulfilling path. She has been using her corporate experiences to help organisations in two areas: social impact and the hugely challenging low-carbon transition. Samantha, welcome.
Hi, Will. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast today.
No problem. Thank you for joining us. Could you tell us about your journey from the oil industry into sustainability? And was there a particular aspect of your previous work that drove you into the sustainability sector?
That is a great question, and I'll try not to share. I could talk about this for hours, so I'll try and be succinct. I think I fell into the oil industry coming out of university. I found myself in oil trading. I studied chemistry, and I really enjoyed the fast pace of trading. And really, it was a puzzle to solve. And through that time, I was quite good at it, quite an obsessive character. But suddenly, I found myself 15 to 20 years later, fully entrenched in the oil market, really defined myself by my work. Working at BP, we'd had the Macondo oil spill, and we were really just starting to see some of the stories of climate emerging. And I think it's fair to say I had a kind of midlife crisis, in the sense that I really realized that what I was doing was so far aligned from what felt like a purpose. I actually read Brené Brown, and it said if you are distant from your purpose, it can actually feel like grief. And it really sort of struck me into my core that I wasn't really doing something that I really felt aligned with. And I'd actually say it was probably through mindfulness that I actually found some space and time to really think about what I wanted to do, and realize that life was now and not in 5 years' time. Always in the future, I was going to do the things that I said I was going to do. So BP were great. I was a good leaver. I left in very good terms with them. But I started to mentor as part of the ARC scheme, business in the community. And I just started to meet amazing people through the Impact Hub network that were doing amazing things in social justice, in equality, and in climate. And I felt 10 years younger and realized that I wanted to take a path where I could really learn from people that are doing amazing things and just keep learning and seeing where I could possibly give back.
I just find BP really interesting in the fact that when they had Lord Brown there, he was such a driving force for renewables. And I think it was a real loss when he was asked to leave, because you saw that beyond petroleum and the fact that you were one of the biggest renewable energy producers in the world for photovoltaics at the time. And it was a real kind of driving force in the sustainability world, I guess. And they took a different path.
Absolutely right. They were ahead of their time, and unfortunately, with business, timing was everything, and there wasn't the foresight then to realise that they were on the right path. I still have great connections with BP. I think they've got a very, very difficult transition, and they are definitely doing what they can to try and transition, but there are huge challenges on the way, as we know.
Tell us a bit about Business Declares, and we've delved into a tiny bit of the purpose, but what is the purpose and who do you work with?
I'd say our purpose is evolving, just as the pace of change of the climate news and the climate story is changing day by day. We came about in April 19, after the IPC report, which sparked the climate strikes, Greta Thunberg, Extinction Rebellion. And it was a letter to the Times from some senior business leaders, led by John Elkington, who's been a master in the space for a long time. And it really is born out of believing that business, plays a critical role in tackling the climate and ecological emergency. And I think at that time, Extinction Rebellion, some factions of Extinction Rebellion were still concerned about, seemed to be working with business. And we're sort of still work closely with them, but very much are led by business leaders from across, FTSE 100s, SMEs, B Corp, all manner of different organizations who really want to partner with business. And I'd say in those early days, the tagline was very much about raising awareness for business to act, and also explain that not only is it the right thing for people and planet, but also to future-proof the business. And I'd say where we are now, in a good way, I think climate is virtually at the heart of almost every conversation business leaders are having. And so we'd probably say we're less about raising the awareness, and we've moved much more. Certainly, we still champion those organizations that are declaring a climate and ecological emergency, and we share their stories. We hope to inspire by action that has been taken, by bold action. And once a company becomes a member of Business Declares, such as Compare Your Footprint, you're part of a network where you can share those stories and learn from others. And we absolutely believe that collaboration is critical to the huge changes that we need to make. I think we also are really there to support action, amplify action. And businesses come to us at every stage they may be on the journey. We're open to small and large businesses. And the key is be willing to take authentic action. And so we find very small companies can often be overwhelmed by the task, don't know where to start, can't afford consultancy. And so we look to advise, be a bridge to organizations that are out there. We signposts such as Compare Your Footprint that will offer free measurement services to smaller organizations. And so we really feel that it's very complex. There's a spaghetti soup of acronyms out there. So we very much like to help provide those steps to action. I then think the next area is very much about hosting the difficult conversations. being open to the complexity, and really also championing businesses that are there to say, this is really difficult. This is an area that we're really struggling to overcome. We've got the whole complexity of scope 3. We've got a lot of solutions that aren't really out there. The difficulty in getting offsets that are, certified offsets. And so we really are welcoming, and I'd say that we champion businesses and support conversations that are probably on the edgier side. We're much more nervous of companies say, yeah, we're all sorted. We've got our 2050 net zero plan. No worries. That would be a concern. And we'd much rather hear of the difficulties and where further collaboration and solutions are needed. And then the next piece, and this is especially key, I'd say, for larger organizations, is advocacy. We absolutely know that politics and regulatory change is often driven by business, and political decisions will be taken if they feel there is business backing. So we really like to galvanize a resounding voice from business that they are really pushing for faster, clearer regulatory change that supports faster than Paris Agreement, and really will keep not just the UK but the globe within 1.5, if that is possible, or 2-degree warming. And so we really know that businesses want to find a way to come together so that their voice is really, really part of this call for action.
Do your members get together? I mean, have you seen any kind of collaboration?
I'd say yes and no. We've seen great collaboration in our members actually informing our work or helping us fill a gap. So a perfect example is around our digital footprint. It's growing exponentially. Its impact is now larger than aviation or shipping, and that was aviation pre-COVID levels. And we really saw that there weren't any really good resources for companies to go to really look at how they and their employees could tackle their digital footprint. And so we worked with one of our members, Whole Grain Digital, who helped us, were instrumental in putting their expertise together. And we now have a free open source resource, which is our digital declutter for business. I think that's a really good example of where actually it's the knowledge and expertise of members that comes in and then helps inform our body of work. But definitely for us, the next step would be improving those nodes of support and that web where it's not just business declares that reaches out to members, but members connect with each other as well in sharing solutions. And actually, and you're part of this on Thursday, we have an annual members check-in where we're absolutely going to be exploring how we can do more of that. And especially now as our membership is growing, we're really going to need for the members to come alive in helping grow the movement and share solutions.
Brilliant. We've actually had Tom from Whole Grain. He was one of our first guests, actually, almost 3 years ago, talking about what he's doing. He's absolutely Whole Grain Digital are brilliant.
I have not read his book, but he is amazing, and as you know, he's spoken for us as well, and he's got that amazing ability to be an absolute expert in his field, be able to speak in a way that brings a subject alive to people like me that know pretty much nothing about website design. So yeah, he's a true force.
And that's what the book's very good at. It's actually very well written. You know, when friends or people you see that they've got a book out, and I actually said this to Tom. Yeah, I'll try and read it because you kind of they're all right, but actually it's quite hard to read. His wasn't. His was actually quite enjoyable to read, and I was quite blown away by how easy it was and how enjoyable it was as well.
Well, that is the nudge to me that I must read it. Also, we're actually doing event Business Declares and Whole Grain Digital with the B Corp, the B Lab have got a global climate summit. So June the 30th, there will be a chance for people. It's 3:30, I think, on June the 30th, to plug in and listen to Tom and get his bite-sized overview of all the things we've got in the digital toolkit and how people can take steps themselves. So fantastic.
Now, there's a strong emphasis on having a no judgment attitude on the Business Declares websites. What was the driver behind this point, and have you found more businesses engaging with you as a result of this?
It came from Cook. I think they were, when Cook joined, well, when Cook were thinking of joining us, they were really clear, and I think it was such a point that we understood and really took on board that everybody is on a journey, and I think nobody can claim to have all the answers, especially the more complex your business. We understand businesses need to make a profit, they need to pay their employees. So this is not something, as we said earlier, where people say, I've got the answers all done. And people didn't want to join us in Declare and see that as something then that they can be pulled down by someone go, yeah, but you still blah, blah, blah. And certainly for Cook, they're absolute champions in the food space. But they also talk, and I think Riverford, our newest member, also really talk about some of the uncomfortable truths, be it around if we all ate chicken that was free range. Actually, is that possible? Is there enough land? Are these things possible? And so we really liked that wording, and we found that since then, other companies have really wanted to take it on board. And we're all about authentic action. And I think that does really embody saying we're there to learn. And as we know, the situation is changing very rapidly. The climate science is changing rapidly. And what might have been appropriate behavior even a year ago, quite quickly may not feel appropriate.
No, absolutely. And when communicating and I guess engaging staff, suppliers, and customers with your mission and purpose, could you tell us a bit about how you do that? Because that's a big part of what you do, isn't it?
That's a great question. Our first step for someone to become a member is really for us to verify that from the leadership of the company, the core of the company, there's a genuine, authentic wish to take this transition journey. And we're part of the Race to Zero, and we ourselves have these, well, I'd say fairly strict criteria, which is that they will measure Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, look to be net zero by 2030, where at all possible. We're also very conscious of net, meaning that isn't just you can plant some trees and carry on with business as normal, but really look at where emission reduction is possible first, and then the offsets are permanent and additive. But these in themselves, and understanding Scope 3, are huge. And as you say, what we really need to do then is actually for organisations that haven't done that already, and especially for organisations that can't afford expensive consultancy, as we've talked about, we really look at what resources are available and signpost resources for measurement, which companies can help them do that. And we also share stories and transition plans from other companies that have already done this. It's almost a step-by-step guide of saying, this is how you start. This is the organization we think can help you. This is the resource available. And these are the steps you can take. And so we're growing our volunteer network, but we'll also, if there was a specific question a company has, we'll then try and find within our network someone that they can go to for, say, a 30-minute conversation, particularly if they're struggling on an aspect of reducing their emissions or their supply chains. And we've got various experts in different industries. We've got Safia Minay, who was the founder of PeopleTree and is very focused on fashion and supply chains and worked with fair trade. We've got Ben Tolhurst, who's a director at JLL, so he very much understands the built environment. And Sonal Jain is also one of our sustainability advisors. So we really try and have people that they can talk to and as a sounding board and develop their ideas. Or we would partner them with people within our membership base, as you say. But we don't claim to have the answers. It's incredibly complex. I see a lot of my job is keeping on top of all the initiatives out there. As we know, there's a lot of collaboration in the space. There's also a lot of companies merging. There's a lot of organizations that are coming together and really being able to explain what is happening out there So companies are a bridge, to be a bridge to all the different initiatives so that they can save time in accessing what they need quickly and easily.
It is hard. I think once you're on the journey, it's actually easier. I may be speaking out of turn here, but I kind of feel that watching people, I think once they kind of that light bulb moment goes and they go, actually, this is just good for business. This isn't something that is going to take up loads of our time and take us away from our core business. This will be a part of our core business, and that those resources you're talking about, I think, are incredibly important because in reality, and I remember starting 20 odd years ago and thinking by 2020 I'll be completely out of a job. There's no reason why anyone would be using consultants by then because everyone will be doing it for themselves, and the office manager in a smaller organization will just basically do everything because it will be a part of the job. Obviously that hasn't happened. I still hope that it does happen, but I think that will be accelerated by what you're talking about and organizations like you, because we really need to not be reliant on people and consultants, but we need to be reliant on each other.
So wise what you're saying. It so resonates. We say that business declares his whole long-term vision is just not to be necessary. But you're completely right. I'd actually say the situation is becoming more complex. I still think very simple guidelines to the climate science and the most important things that we can do to affect our own footprint and as a business aren't well understood. And so, yeah, consultants like you are absolutely necessary and instrumental in helping businesses. And I do think, yeah, you definitely aren't going to be talking yourself out of a job because certainly small organizations, they don't expect to be able to be fully experts at accountancy or law. They would often outsource to experts on this. And I think that's exactly the same with climate. That the pace of change is so fast that somebody within an organization can't be expected to be doing this on top of their day job. You're trying to keep on top of this all day, every day, and the amount of information coming at us is just absolutely enormous.
I know I'm starting to have to carve out time in the week to do research and read, and because I'm starting to become I'm just being honest, I'm starting to become out of date in stuff, and it's very quick to become out of date as well, which is the worrying part.
I'm really glad you say that because I think one thing we question ourselves all the time at Business Declares about our mission and what, rather than just easing our conscience, are we really making a difference? How can we make a difference? And exactly that, just keeping on top of the various initiatives. And I think the level of expertise for every sector is needing to get greater and greater as the complexity of genuine solutions, it is moving on. And so, absolutely, trying to decide which are the key books to read, and it's huge, isn't it? And that's why I think this collaboration it is hugely important for us to say, well, I don't know that, but I think the person that you can go to that can help you is X. But then on the other hand, I don't think anybody has the answers.
No, absolutely.
Which is another, it's much better to be aware of our gaps and our lack of understanding in certain areas. But I don't think there's anyone that can put the hand up and say, we've got this. We've got this.
No, I had a meeting yesterday with a large company, and they came to us because they'd heard, I think they'd listened to podcasts or something, I don't know. And I was a bit like, I know you really want me to lead on this, but there's absolutely no way I will do a good job. Go and speak to this person in this company because actually they'll just do it better. They'll do it better, basically. I was a bit like, you will literally get a really rubbish job done if you ask me to do it. You may like me, but no point. And I think it's that honesty that we probably need to be having with people, because even if you do something that's similar to another organization, if you're not best fit for that, then actually why not just recommend other people? And I think business is changing in that way, because I think that's happening more and more, because people are recognizing that actually from a business point of view, by me recommending Andy from Seismic Changes actually means that he will very likely recommend us as well. So you end up working in your sweet spot through referrals, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so that is absolutely true. I kind of, now I'm more into this climate space. I'm finding that companies who are really authentic and have this at the core of the business, there's such a generosity as well. I mean, with our members, including yourself, the amount of time that is offered for free, there's no question of what's in it for me, and the open source sharing, but also really understanding that businesses have to pay their people and pay their way. So it's a really difficult balance, and also exactly right, being able to say, I'm just not an expert at that. I'd love to learn about it, but I'm not the right person to lead. And I think that it's brilliant, and that kind of attitude is what is going to get the changes that we need. Just as the attitude of businesses being able to say, I think the old industrial leaders of the past that said, I know what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. Here's my business plan. I know the answers. It's starting to wear thin. People know that isn't the case. We have to be looking at the risks. We have to be understanding the various things that are coming our way. I mean, COVID has been the perfect example. We know that we're in an ecological unbalance, but we don't know exactly how that's going to play out. So for all of us to say we don't know the answers, but we're going to work our way through as best we can is hugely important.
You mentioned your volunteer network. If anyone listening to this would like to become a volunteer, how would they do that? And are you a registered charity, not-for-profit, and how does it all fit together?
So we're completely volunteer-led, not-for-profit. We run on a donation basis. We do have one permanent paid staff member who we've just taken on as part of the government Kickstarter scheme. So it's great. We've been able to give a young person an opportunity to work with us. But we're really in terms of the volunteering, we are really flexible. We have 3 directors. We have non-executive directors, and then we have a core team of about 10 of us who run various elements of events, the website, social media. And we get together every couple of weeks and have strategy meetings, and people will run with various aspects of that. But then we have our wider team of experts who I think who I kind of mentioned before, people who work in organizations in sustainability and offer their time, be it 2 hours a month, anything upwards from 2 hours a month, but it is absolutely welcome, whether that's helping onboard new members, helping with climate transition plans, being involved in events. So I would say just get in touch, Samantha at businessdeclares.com. And also for any organizations interested in becoming a member, info at businessdeclares.com. Really do get in touch. And we're there for sort of big and small organization, and for all volunteers who may have some time that they want to give, either as part of their employee volunteering scheme or separate as an individual.
The fact that you're all volunteer-led, your growth plan must be that you are going to be paid at some point.
I'd say that all of us are seeing this as something that is additional to what might be other source of income. And we really didn't want to have the complexity at any point of this being something that we're trying to monetize. So we are a donation led. So organizations that we've worked with, where we've given tailor-made webinars, and for our member organizations that feel in a position to donate, we take donations, but that purely funds interns and the website and any kind of digital costs that we may have. And we don't look, any of the directors or the leaders, to take a wage from this at any point. What that does mean is that we have a sort of a core number of volunteers, but also we have a fluid number of volunteers. So during COVID and last summer during our furlough scheme, we had some fantastic climate consultants that came in. We had a fantastic guy from BP who was on sabbatical, which wasn't part of the furlough scheme, but on sabbatical, who came and worked with us for 5 months. So we do have people that really come in and commit a period of time and then perhaps become part of our wider alumni, but move back into a full paid job. And then we have people that just volunteer time outside of their working week as and when they can. And I'm in a lucky place now that I can be a full-time volunteer.
Okay, cool. Brilliant. And I guess understanding the environmental impact of you as an organisation, is that something that you have looked at?
It's been a brilliant journey for us, and the digital toolkit has been amazing. So, and we have other companies that say the same as our organisation, which mean, well, really, we just all work from home. We have video calls, so let's not look at our own impacts. This is much more about what we're going to do out there. And then, when we talk about being on the edge of difficult conversations, we've been right there on the edge of a difficult conversation. Our website was designed by one of our members, fantastic organisation called Leap. It was hosted through WordPress, and it was much more environmental. But really, for us, we couldn't go in and update it easily, and it became quite clunky and expensive for us to update. And as we've kind of explained before, we run on a very small budget. So our website moved to Squarespace, which has much lower environmental credentials. Or certainly, I don't want to be careful here. It may have changed, but certainly at that time they weren't so clear on where their hosting sites are. And so again, that was a difficult decision that we took, to actually know that we were maybe making our website less hosted in a less environmental way, but we wanted to make more impact by being able to reach more people with an up-to-date message. But we were then very mindful in working through Tom's recommendations, how to make the website have a much lower footprint, removing videos that are no longer needed, reducing pop-ups, no autoplays. So in our own way that we exist, we're really aware. Turning off videos on Zoom calls, if you don't need to be sharing videos and you're not looking at each other and talking, again, there are just lots of things that when you're working from home you can do to still improve your footprint. I think we're all very aware of trying to recycle and not eat meat and switch to a renewable energy supply. But there's a lot more things that all of us can do while we're working and in our own households to reduce our footprints.
In your opinion, what is the biggest caveat to a low carbon transition?
Right. Well, I tend to always, it's a huge question, but I think I'm just reading Jason Hickel, his amazing Less is More book. But I think we're caught in a whole structure of the global economy based on growth, and all companies are there to grow and make more and more profit, and that profit gets invested back into growth. And ultimately, to live within planetary boundaries, and I'm not just talking about the carbon budget, but the ecological boundaries, and for social equality, we need to have a talk to say that, and Kate Raworth has spoken very clearly about this. Many countries in the global south need to raise their infrastructure and their demands on the planet to get within what is a minimum structure to live an equitable life. But most of very, very advanced countries are not advanced in the fact that we're way over our resource use. But I think there really needs to be a global rethink about what it means to be a business, what profit is beyond profit that is needed, and how we really reset to live within the boundaries. And it's hugely complex. And it takes, companies that are needing to make a dividend and pay a dividend are doing very high carbon activities to pay that dividend, and try and transition at the same time. And these are really uncomfortable truths. And so really looking to really question sort of GDP and those measures and that growth question, and actually look at what is important for people and health, and really assess what wealth means.
Is there any advice that you could give our listeners on what to do? From listening to your members and talking to people, what would be your one piece of advice
I'm
you could
going to
offer?
echo what you said earlier about how it feels better to start. And I would say, if you're sitting there and you're not sure where to start, come onto our website, look at some resources. Tom from Whole Grain shared a spreadsheet that he used just to start to measure. Don't think that to start you need to get it 100% right. Just consider your footprint, start to measure your emissions, and then there are a wealth of people out there that can help you look to reduce. So I'd say just start taking some steps, reach out to us, and really there are no stupid questions. Nobody knows the answers. And as you said before, your employees and your ability to attract talent on a future basis is really going to depend on the fact that you're starting to look like you're taking the steps to future-proof for your business and do the right thing for the people and the planet.
Brilliant. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You've asked some great questions, and I'm sure I'm going to go away thinking of all the things I should have said, but it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you again.
And thanks for listening to the Sustainable Business Podcast. If you want to learn more about sustainable business and talk to other like-minded professionals, why not join our online community at sustainabilitysolved.org. Join now and find a space to collaborate, learn and inspire others to become more environmental. And if you enjoy the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you get every episode. And don't forget to follow Green Element on LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram. So you really enjoy sustainability and want to be a part of the solution? Come and join our vibrant community now. Book a call and we can talk more.